The journey to creating this video today started with a combination of two different stories that appeared back to back over the course of a day, both going completely and utterly internet viral. Firstly with the story of Amethyst Realm, who appeared as a guest on this morning's show, and it's from this point that she became internet famous, shall we say. Amethyst Realm, as the title says, that she gave up men to sleep with ghosts. That's right, she gave up the humankind around 10 years ago after her fiancé came home and found her in bed with a spectral lover.
Eventually, you got busted by your boyfriend.
I did, yeah. I was. He came home from work a day early, and
Human one. I can only imagine what that must have looked like. There you are as a guy. You've come home from work. You put your keys down. You put the kettle on, and you can hear a sound upstairs, and you're not quite sure what it is. Now, if you're a person who's ever had this happen to you, you think generally of three different things. Is it the partner? Is it the wife, the husband, or whatever upstairs? Is it a burglar or is it a ghost? It's true, there are the three things that go through your mind. Little did this partner know, this fiancé, that two of them were actually correct and they were actually copulating together. And no, it wasn't the burglar, it was of course that ghost. And she claims that has then gone on to have 15 more spiritual lovers.
I don't know what I can say on
Well,
TV.
you described it like, wait.
You had sex?
Yeah, I had sex with the ghost.
With a ghost?
Yeah. Yes.
But you can't wrap your arms around a ghost.
No.
So how physically, how does the sex bit happen?
You can still feel it. Like it felt, it was it's difficult to explain.
Like a weight.
It's kind of a weight, but at the same time weightless.
And does a sexual experience with a ghost end in orgasm?
For me, yeah.
Right, gosh, so wow.
And fan for the ghost?
I just hope so.
There was a ghost. There's ectoplasm. Did you see the ghost? It ran through here. It slimed me. No, that wasn't me. That was a spooky ghost.
Her wish also, beyond that, is to conceive a child with a spiritual lover. I don't quite know how that's going to work. There is, of course, the joke in there of the phantom pregnancy.
Possibilities that could actually be maybe the ghost of a child within you, but people don't know how to carry it on to full term kind of thing.
Now we move on next to the story of Sian Jamison, a woman who claims to have had the most amazing sex with a ghost of a 19th century man while living alone in a remote cottage in Wales. Sian Jamison says that she woke up to find a man lying next to her in her bed, the same man who appeared in a painting over the fireplace. Now, it must be said for this story, she actually was going through a state of emotional grieving and the process of breaking up from a relationship of 3 years, where everywhere she went when she lived in London, it reminded her of her ex, so she needed a fresh start. That's a good point. She needs to get away, needed to change her life and where she went. But a relationship does carry a hell of a lot of an emotional baggage. Now, while staying in this particular cottage, she found that above the mantelpiece in the main room was a painting of a handsome young man dated in 1820. Now, there was no distractions, there was just me, the sky, and the trees. Well, one evening, she woke up, and there was a handsome man lying next to her. They had intimate good times, and she woke up the next day and also then followed on. Had a good old morning sex as well. And she is a spiritualist. Claims to have seen apparitions in the past, but none have ever got intimate with her until now. Also reminds me of an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. In the latter series, there's an episode called Sub Rosa in Season 7, where Dr. Beverly Crusher of the Enterprise, she attends her grandmother's funeral to find herself stranded on a planet that is a recreation of ancient Scotland, where she then finds a gentleman who is an entity that is stealing the energy from her family line. So for like 700 years, this entity is taking life force from each generation of the Crusher family, and his name is Ronan, and he's an attractive kind of Byron-esque looking gentleman.
There wasn't another person in my dream. It was more like a presence. I did fall asleep reading a particularly erotic chapter in my grandmother's journal.
Our story takes us to Love at First Light, where a British woman from Leeds has proposed to a chandelier that she bought on eBay. Her name is Amanda Liberty. Now, Amanda Liberty is no stranger to being in the news, but it's taken a bit of a investigation to find out who this lady is. But we're going to come to that in just a moment. And right now, that she's about to marry Luminaire, a baccarat crystal chandelier, 53 years her senior. Cost her £400 in shipping later. and the 33-year-old woman showers the chandelier with kisses and cuddles, and has even proposed to the light fitting back on Valentine's Day. But she shares her life, because she's in an open relationship with 25 other light fittings. But luckily, Luminaire doesn't seem to mind. After all, it's the one with the ring. She claims to be object sexual. In other words, she's romantically attracted to objects, and she first realised that she was sexually attracted to items after she fell in love with the drum kit at the age of 14. Yes, I can only imagine what you were doing with the drum kit at the age of 14. And then as an adult, she fell in love with the Statue of Liberty and changed her name by deed poll to Liberty. And I was like, I remember that story. And this is what I went and found. Her name was Amanda Whitaker. She was 27 at the time and fell in love with the Statue of Liberty. There's a story picked up by the Metro back in 2012, thankfully still online. She has an unusual condition known as objectum sexuality, which means she falls in love with inanimate objects. And she once had a passionate affair with a drum kit. So we are talking about the same lady here. And she's thought of tying the knot with the object she affectionately calls Libby. So she literally changed her name to Amanda Liberty. And then you have this fella, a man who spends $50,000 to become a genderless alien with plans to remove his genitals, his nipples, and his belly button removed next. Now, I keep saying him, perhaps I shouldn't be saying that because he doesn't identify himself as neither male or female. And his extreme look is to mirror how he feels inside, that of a genderless extraterrestrial. Let's take a look at this man. This is how, of course, he's gone through his changes. This is how he looks presently. He is going to spend a further $160,000 to become his perfect genderless alien, his inner identity. And you can see the procedures and changes that he has made as he continues on. And then we have Tom, or Spot as he prefers to be called. He's a young British lighting technician who has paid more than £5,000 to become a dog. His gender preference is that of being a dog, and that enables him to be at peace with himself and to live in the moment. Spot was the main focus of a Channel 4 expose documentary called The Secret Life of Human Pups. As Spot says, you can have such enjoyment with simple things such as throwing tennis balls being thrown at you, and treats. My pup side doesn't get into too much trouble, but sometimes when I'm in a pet store I get odd looks from the staff and how excited I can get over chew toys. Now on the back of this, you got people who claim to be being born of the wrong species. That's right. Cats, dogs, all trapped inside human bodies. So is this part of human identity dysphoria, or is this part of something a little more strange? The topic of trans species has found itself in vogue throughout 2017. For instance, in the Journal of Theoretical Humanities, University of Arizona scholar Florentine Felix Marin argues that his hippo alter ego allowed him to navigate the world free from the constraints that govern human bodies. I do strongly love when my friends call me hippo, refer to my paws, and pretend that they see no difference between me and one of my stuffed hippopotamuses, except that I'm a little bigger than most. He wanted to explore the formation between trans animal, hippopotamus. It allows him to verbally and mentally escape one's gender, their sexuality, and even their age, and be more subjective and more social. The article investigates the politics of equating gendered, transgender and trans species, examining the question of the inclusion of xenogenders in the trans political argument and movement. Now, 2017 has been a year of unusual marriages that have come to the forefront across the web and beyond. This is Carol Santa Fe. She's 45. She's in love with a train station. She's actually been in love with the train station since she was age 9. And she married the train station in 2015 after they fell in love in 2011. The train station has a name. It's female. She gender identifies the train station and gives her a name as Deirdre. And that talks about here when they got into their relationship. When we got married, I stood there and told her I'd take her as my partner. It was the happiest day of our lives. She takes 45 minutes to get here every single day to spend time with her wife. There's a private bit where the walls meet when I go to touch her, which I do by leaning against her with my clothes on. When I'm touching her, I feel as if it's actually holding me and kisses me. I don't have physical sex with the train station in public. I want to be respectful. I wouldn't do that with a human in public, so why would I do it in this case? but I do have sex with Daedra when I stand there. I especially like it when I hear the trains rev up with their engines. It really turns me on. I came close to having an orgasm once. I was scared I'd get caught by train station staff. In the land of the rising sun, where 15% of men openly admit to being in love with video game or anime characters as opposed to real-life counterparts, Japan finds itself also in the crux of a population crisis. Population is aging, and there's not many new children being born. In fact, less than 1 million just last year. But for this man here, his dreams were fulfilled. He got the opportunity to marry his video game dream girl, fulfilled by Hibiki Works, as they recently performed a virtual reality wedding for him back in July. I believe this was as part of that promotion for their upcoming video game called Nazuma. Nazuma literally means new wife in Japanese, and the idea is that you would cultivate your relationships with 3 particular girls within the video game. Nazuma also has a large fan fiction section online too, mainly aimed at men, and a community driven around that, between attracting or learning how to formulate relationships with women. Hopefully they're going to learn these skills. Hopefully they can take them from not just being obsessed with the video game character and get outside and getting on with a real lady. But who knows where marriages can go next. So half a world away, we go to Mexico, where a Mexican man has married a crocodile to bring good luck to local fishermen. The crocodile was baptized, dressed in white, and had her jaws clamped shut, where tradition demands that a man marries the crocodile each year to bring luck to the local fishermen, as it is a local tradition to do so. As they dance here, make an offering to God to thank him for the land, the harvest, and the fish. Oh, look at the lovely bride there. Quite how the marriage was consummated, I don't think I want to know, because that could be rather snappy. So 2017 has also seen the trending topic of that of sologamy, the idea of marrying oneself. Perhaps you haven't quite found the right person yet. Perhaps that you did for a bit and then it didn't work out and you're a bit like, I don't want to put my feet into a relationship again. Perhaps the idea of arguing over the honeymoon or where you're going to go or who's going to sit on what side of the church, not things you want to go with. So the idea is that you can marry yourself. Quite literally, there's not even packages for it and so on. But the first time I ever heard of the term sologamy was 2015. I saw a review in, I think it was The Guardian, for a book by this lady here, Sophie Tanner, and she literally was everywhere. I saw her in articles, I saw her on the news, I saw her on TV. She made quite the publicity hound of herself. Although it turned out actually she was cheating on herself with someone else. Quite how that works, got no idea. But the idea of sologamy, getting married to oneself. This lady here, she decided to marry herself when she was 22, with vows to be compassionate and kind to herself. Although she was the only one in attendance, but she did announce the union to friends, and for a ring she went with a nose ring so she could breathe her vows every day, she said. And from one person in a relationship to 121. This man here has married 120 women, and they all know about each other. It's the art, the love, the life of polygamy. Now, polygamy is actually illegal in the country of Thailand, where this man is a politician. He's 58 years old, has 28 children, and 120 wives. He actually runs a construction business, which is very successful, and he's welcomed members from across the world media to come to his home so he can shed light on his life and the way that he lives. And what will be our last story here before we round it up with some final thoughts? Let's go to Zeng here. Let's follow Zeng's story. He has an interesting one for sure. So, Zeng here, he worked for electronics company Huawei, and he then struck out on his own to develop an artificial intelligence company, of which he is an engineer for. Now, it seems to be that his parents and his family and his friends were all kind of hassling him to get married, to get it on, but however, looks exactly weren't in his department. He's not looking too good. However, he is successful, and he's smart, he knows what he's doing, so he decided to do what everyone does on a Friday night, after he'd been depressed, bit down, thinking about a lady. He watched an American movie, and that movie was, of course, I'll make the perfect wife myself, I'll build her from scratch, and I'll build her AI core, and then she'll take over the world. Well, maybe he wasn't thinking that far ahead. The idea was he just wanted a wife. He wanted to have some companionship and he wanted some love. And as the story goes here, he then, after 2 months of dating his creation, Jing Jing, he decided to get married. He was done with just dating. He donned a black suit and married her in a ceremony in front of his mother and his friends in the eastern city of Hangzhou. Though it's not officially recognised by authorities, it has garnered the conversation to happen. Is it okay to marry an AI? Is it okay to marry a robot, an artificial intelligence? Which really is kind of where my final thoughts go. Is because as we close on the topic, you've got talks of naysayers going on. The economists and the futurists, for a very long time, are talking about robots taking our jobs. They took our jobs. Robots, self-driving cars, driverless trains, robot-only factories, offsetting a huge proportion of the world's workforce. It includes the police. People are getting bumped from the bedroom in favour of inanimate times with sexy robots. So off to China we go. Of course, we got this guy here with a ratio of 113 men to every 100 women. The statistics for single men in China clearly aren't good, so it makes sense that why this guy built the robot himself. You know, so perhaps if you're a long-time carrot waxer, you're a singleton, you know, what are you going to do? Enough is enough. Maybe getting closer to our robots is where we're going to go. And what a year as it is. Do you think we're now going to get more connected to our technology? So we have permanently connected technology, the idea of putting technology within our body, monitoring your heartbeat, monitoring where your eyes look. You know, we literally are one combined with technology. You have the embracing of virtual reality, which even myself have embraced this year. So the kind of relationship there used to be between a man and a woman, you know, has evolved in perhaps the last 30 years itself. You know, now certainly from our more Western perspective, it's okay to date someone of your own sex. The idea that you can now date doll companions, the idea of ghosts, animals, inanimate objects, they're now suddenly becoming mainstream. That it's now okay for these relationships to evolve beyond what was just the man and a woman. There's seemingly on the surface less dedication to the act of reproduction. What is interesting from a wide-angle perspective, there appears to be a correlation where there is this divergence, you know, to embracing profiles and lifestyles. Although, particularly say in China and Japan, where there's actually a decline in national birth rates, the West as well, where we're challenged by ageing populations. We're never quite sure what's too far now, what's too much. And we're moving away from the traditions of having a foundational relationship, the 2.4, you know, nuclear family. That's all very different now. So, what's your thoughts? What's your ideas? Are these relationships strange and weird? Are they just unusual? Are they just different? Do you understand where they come from and their points of view? Do you know what's taken them to make those steps in their lives? And what's the future hold for our relationships going forward? That if we are embracing animals and dogs and companions and inanimate objects and robots and dolls and all the things that come with that, you know, what's the potential for even childbirth in the future? Let me know your thoughts, and I'd love to converse with you on those topics and subjects. Until next time, I'm Kristian, thank you for taking the time out to be with me today.